بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Okay, so today in this lecture we are going to work the solution of the quiz that you did yesterday. So before starting, I would like to know whether you have faced some difficulties. What are these difficulties? This quiz. I'm going first to create a new package here for the quiz. I'm going to call it exam dot quiz number 1 spring 2018, and the first class will be distance sensor. So one way to save time, maybe something that may take you the time, is reading the questions and everything. So no, it's not responding to this. Okay, you can actually put the question in front of you, so you don't need to go back and forth to the document, or so we can put things here. It's going to be easier to follow. So a distance sensor object is characterized by its ID and its range. So this is actually an example from reality. We usually have distance sensors like this. They allow you to measure the distance to objects. Like, for example, the distance sensor that you have maybe in your car from the rear sensors. Okay, so that when you go backward, so this sensor can see on your behalf and they can detect whether you are close to an obstacle, and then can give you some kind of sound to prevent you making any collision. So the sensor, it actually calculates the distance to obstacles. This is how it works. Of course, every sensor would have an ID here, which is a string, and the range. Of course, the range here would be double. There is not too much option. We give some values here, 5.0, 0.2, and so on. Okay, this is the minimum range. And then we have the max range and the mean range, which is a constant. So how do we make a constant in Java? Of course, the max range will be double. Okay, and we said here it is a constant. So a constant here, we use the keyword final. And we have seen this several times. صح ولا لا؟ From the time that we reviewed the arrays, we have used final, okay, to denote constants. Private final, double. So of course here final will need to have an assignment. Okay, so usually here we do something like 5.0 and 0.2. But of course, if you do this, I'm going to accept for this particular quiz, although it is not the correct way of doing it. Why? Because if we do this, all the objects, distance sensor, will have the same maximum range and minimum range. And this is not true in reality. You can buy two different sensors. One, it is low cost, and the other one high cost, because one, it can see is much longer than the other. Yeah. Okay? So, but if you do it like this, and then you will do a constructor for distance sensor that contains a string ID and double range. You will do set ID here and set a range, and you will do a range here. So this is probably, most of you will do something similar to this one. Yeah. But as I told you, the problem here is that all the sensors will have the same maximum range and the same minimum range. So basically what we should do instead is not to make this assignment here, but making it inside the constructor. Because a constant value can be either initialized inline in the same declaration line or inside the constructor. لأنه the constructor is going to be called only once. So I can actually do max range equal to some particular value. Of course, I'm not going to assign a static value here. I'm going to do here double max range, okay, and double mean range, and maximum range is going to be equal to max range, and minimum range is going to be equal to mean range. So this is the right way to do it.
Don't I need to do set max range and set min range?
No. Why we cannot do set max range? It's a constant. And the constant you assign only first time and then you are not able to change. Look now, if I do any method, public void, مثلا method m, whatever it is, I would like to do another assignment here. I can't.
Yeah, I know, but I remember that you told us that we have to make all of them set. That's why I keep
here
trying to do it that way.
No, here you cannot set الآن هل معقول أنه it's a constant and we do a set method? Is this reasonable or not? No, it's not reasonable. Now we do something reasonable. It's not because, and in principle this one we can do constant usually as public. I will accept if you make it as public, that will be the best way. But if you don't make it as public, what you can do, for example here double get max range return. You can do for this for the constant, okay, max range. So here it makes sense to make a get method, but it does not make sense to make a set method. واضح؟ نعم.
I wrote set method for max and minimum range, but then I wrote equal 5 and equal 0.2 at the attribute and forget to remove the set method.
Okay, you should not have written the set method. Yes. جيد، ما فيش إشكال. أي هو أفضل. غالبا constant we make them as public. It's a choice. I mean, it can be like this or that. ها؟ نعم. Okay. So واضحة مسألة الفاينل الآن. Okay, so the final you can initialize only here in the constant. So we have also to do get and set methods. So I will show you now a way that make it faster to make get and set method. You can make insert code, go to getter and setter, select your attributes, and then you can have them all of them done. So this can save you a little bit of time, but of course it will not do any kind of data validation. Voila. So it will just write the set and get method. It can also work for the constructor, but of course you have to make the necessary changes depending on the question. So here, of course, for the range we need to do what? Data validation here. If range is greater than mean range and range is smaller than max range. In this case we can do the assignment, otherwise we throw new illegal argument exception. Throw new legal argument exception, and here we write wrong range. واضح؟ نعم.
I didn't write minimum range because I didn't see it in the question before, so I left it.
موجود هنا. أنا قلت هنا كان في ماكس لكن I mentioned ما يمكن تكون ماكس للمينيموم. It was typos here.
When you said like before the
قلنا max range is the constant that represents the maximum readable range بعدين اكتبت max range صح لكن I mentioned in the exam that it is mean range. No problem, okay. It's a لكن واضحة that represent the minimum.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I thought you wanted to repeat it.
Okay. Now we have to do two other constructors. One that is default. So here we have to use the keyword this. For example, I will put the ID to some value. مطلوب ايش؟ with the ID, yes. Okay, so string ID. So I will put ID here, and then the range. It must be something greater than mean range. Let me put 0.2, and then max range 0.2. Here max range 5.0 and 0.2, and then public distance sensor. So copy constructor, we have to do an object of the same type, and we will do this s.get id, s.get range, s.max range, and s.mean range. واضح? So in principle everything should be simple. Maybe you will not have in mind to make this assignment like this. I can tolerate. Okay, but all the others in principle they are pretty much simple.
Distance sensor default.
نعم.
أول default constructor. String ID بعدين this ID بعدين obtain minimum range.
وين نشوف فيها؟
0.2 5.0.
أي سطر؟
قصده الديفولت
سطر رقم كم؟
Second constructor.
سكند كونستراكت
سطر كم هذا؟
Maybe
ما مبين عنه مو مبين
هو 40
ايش؟
0.2
Just some default values. زيرو صح، لكن المشكلة في زيرو من بعد إذا كان المين رينج 0.2 يسوي لك exception. It's not a problem. If you put zero, it's not a problem. No problem. String, and then we have to do the toString method.
Shouldn't the ID be null by default?
Now here we specify the ID. ما قلتش default، أنا إيش قلت الآن؟ One constructor with only the ID parameter where the default value of range is 0. And then we have to do toString method. And of course here we have to make return string dot format. Of course, now you have a specific string representation. The easiest way to do, and I mentioned this to you at least once, is to copy all of this string here, okay, and then just copy it here inside the toString method. You will see it's going to automatically put it in the right code because the quotation might be confusing for you. And here you would replace the values by their access specifier. So this is %.1f or 2f. Okay, here also, and here also. And then the first one is this dot ID, and then this dot range, and then this dot max range, and then this dot mean range.
Doctor, there's no difference if you set this ID range without this in this step or no?
At least 5 or 6 times I say it's the same. Okay, it's the same. I just write this because I will have, when I press the dot, I will have just to select the attribute. It's not because it is better. Okay. So here. The second, is it clear for this class?
Yes.
Any question about this? Okay. And then we have to make sensor grid. Okay, so I will just copy the whole code. So is there anything difficult until now? Hmm? Not really, yes. But it's not a problem. I know that always the first quizzes will come with some difficulties. But inshallah, with time and with more practice, it's going to be easier and easier. Because now I know that everybody understands. But the difficulties that you are having, it's not from understanding point of view, it's from practicing point of view, or grasping the questions quite fast, and typing quite fast, and so on. And this will come with more practice. Okay? Because the concepts are simple, you know, they are repeating all the time. So public class sensor grid here, and the class is characterized by a matrix, which is a two-dimensional array of distance sensor object named sensors. So what is the type of object now? Distance sensor, صح ولا؟ And it is a two-dimensional array. Okay, and what is the name? Sensors. سهلة ولا؟ Very simple. Okay, so you can see it's quite simple. Here, and we did a similar one, a matrix inside a class with the image. If you do the image class, it's very important. So even now, for example, in the future, that's why when I give you any kind of even not mandatory exercise, you have to do it. It's always good for practicing. Of course, here maybe some of the students would like to make something equal a new distance sensor and would like to put some value. Now it's going to be wrong. Whatever you're going to put here, we cannot put 2, 3 or whatever it is because we don't know in advance what will be the values. So in this case, we cannot even put length and width because length and width are still not initialized. Okay, so here the initialization of the sensors array will be inside the constructor. And we did this once, yes.
Why didn't I write about that?
Yeah, we have to put private, just missed it. And then what do we have? Grid width and grid length. Private int grid length and private int grid width. Then we have to write a full argument constructor. Okay, so here private sensor grid. A full argument constructor, it will take all the arguments, int length, int width, and int sensors. Okay. Public. Oh, in principle here, so if we have already a sensor, okay, we can do the following. Okay, so in this case, let me do the set and get methods.
Sensors shouldn't be distance sensors.
The name here, yeah, it should be. One moment, yes, I will change it. It's a distance sensor, right? So here, I'm going to make run insert code, getter and setter. So I will put the set and get methods. I will get all of them. And then I will do set grid length. I will have length here. And set grid width. And we have width here. And set sensors. We have sensors. We can do also a constructor with only 2 parameters because here is going to be kind of redundant. So if we have sensors, we will have width and length. If we have width and length, we can initialize sensors. Okay, so one thing we can do is a constructor with 2 parameters also. I did not request this, but just to show you that we can do the following. And here, what we will do with sensors.
Sensors equally
New distance sensor, and then here we put length and width. واضح? So this is initialization of sensor just by knowing the length and the width. It's going to be an empty array in the beginning. Yes.
So what عرفت أول شيء قلت قلت length وقلت width بعدين السنسور هذا اللي كتبته بالconstructor كتبته فوق. يعني بعد خليت الconstructor بس end to end.
No problem. Like this. Okay. And then we have a copy constructor and the default constructor. So default constructor, public sensor grid. We can do this. I will put everything to 0 and null, so we don't have anything. And public sensor grid, copy constructor. I will put sensor grid here. And then we can do this. sj dot get length, sj dot get width, and sj dot dot sensors. واضح? So this is the copy constructor. And then we will have to do the different methods that were requested. Add, remove, and max. Now.
Line 45. The default constructor will return automatically the default, which is zeros and null. Yes, we don't have to write like this bracket.
If you don't put anything, it's also correct. It's also correct. This is equivalent to this one. Okay, so let's now write the methods. The first method is this one. Public add distance sensor IG. What is the idea here? We have a matrix of distance sensors we are going to add into a certain location specified by IG. Okay, the row index and the column index. Okay, so what to do here? Sensors I j equal S. Okay, so simple, doesn't take too much. لو كان عندنا array list نسوي dot add. هنا عندنا 2-dimensional array, we're going to use the index of the matrix to assign. Okay, نفس الشيء بالنسبة للريموف. remove الآن is going to take only IG. And how to remove? It says here, in order to remove, set the value to null. So I will put this one is equal to null. If I put to null, there is no sensor, so it becomes null object. صح ولا؟ صعبة؟
It's not, but I had no idea that we can do that.
Why? Is there any other way? أنا أصلا سألت عليكم قلت لكم set it to null. كنت نجم نقول remove ونسكت. And you have to have in mind that you have to set it to null. لكن قلت probably you will not think about this, so I made the question simpler by saying you have to set it to null. And if you set it to null, there is no sensor. Okay, it goes off.
But what if maybe you call the default constructor? Is it possible?
نعم.
What if you call the default constructor? Is it possible?
To make
Not really, no. I mean, equal a new sensor, and you're going to put another sensor.
Inside the
Yeah, null is nothing. It's empty.
So now So we set everything.
Yes.
Strings.
Because later on, you can see, you can make a for loop to check whether an element is empty or not empty. So you will compare with null. And null is something that no object is created. But if you create with an object, and the default constructor, you can change the assigned values and so on. So it might not make too much sense. But it was specified here that you have to set it to null. This is why I tell you, take things simple. When the question is clear, just do it. It says make it to null, make it to null. What's the problem? We should not make it differently. And then the max value, public double max. So we're going to return, we have an array of sensors. Cool sensor is giving a certain range. I would like to find the maximum range. Okay. مثلا الآن الحساسات بتاع السيارة, the car sensors. You have مثلا 3. One in the left, one in the right, and one in the middle. So when you receive 3 values, you want to know which of the sensor مثلا has the maximum or the minimum. The minimum أنا أقرب للobstacle. It's closer to the obstacle. So in this case, you can say, for example, there is an obstacle in the right side, or there is an obstacle in the... So this is now, we want to calculate the max, or we want to calculate the mean. It's the same thing. So for calculating the max, is typical. Usually we take a max value and we initialize to some very small value, or could be better here, we can do sensors 0, 0, dot. So sensor 0, 0 is the first sensor, and I'm going to take the range of this sensor. So this is the starting value. And then I will make a for loop to go through all the elements, and I will compare range by range, and I will keep the maximum range in all. Okay, so here a for loop for int I equal to 0, I smaller than grid length, and I plus plus for j equal int j equal to 0, j smaller than grid width, and j plus plus, and then so here if max is smaller than a range of ig, صح ولا لا؟ Okay, in this case I will make the assignment max equal the range of ig. ده الأمر. And then return max. سهلة ولا صعبة؟
سهلة بس برضه هاي دكتور ما عرفنا إنه possible to do اللي هي sensors 00.get range.
مش مشكل. سميها يمكن تعملها -1 لأنه كل الرينجز مش يكونوا أكبر من 0. ما في مشكلة.
I used the double dot main value.
Double dot
Main value. Underscore value.
Why?
I think it's class to give the main value in Java.
I don't know.
Class double capital dot main value. No, main value.
Dot
Main underscore value.
Yeah, for initialization. Yeah, that's no problem.
So it works.
It works, yes, no problem. Okay, so that is all. I did not ask for toString method here. Now we go for the test class. So you can see it's simple. هذا كل سويناه. الآن max, if we go to the review of classes, we did something similar here. Look, we did the sum. We did the sum for the arrays. Okay, and also in the classes here, okay. So let's do now sensor test. And sensor test, public static void main. You have to make a main function here. So look, we are almost finishing with the exam, and we were discussing, explaining, and so on. So it's not really very long. And just a few things to do. Create a sensor grid with matrix 3 by 3. Okay, sensor grid equal new sensor. Okay, I can use, because I created an argument constructor like this, or I can use the 3 argument constructor equal a new distance sensor 3. So it depends now whether you want to do, as I told you, this is redundant because even if I do the following, it's going to create a 3 by 3 array. Okay, and then create sensors with ID from 1 to 9. All sensors have the same maximum range, and set random distances. So here I'm going to set to create different sensors. I'm not going to create them manually, but I'm going to make a for loop here. So I will use a for loop like the one I used in Max. Okay, double for loop. So, and here we're going to use sensor grid dot get grid length, and here sensor grid dot get grid width. So for every value here, what we should do, we should create a new sensor. صح ولا؟ So here it's sensor grid dot get sensors I j equal what? We can do dot add. We have dot add method. صح ولا؟ We have already dot add method at ig, and then here we have to create a new sensor. I can do distance sensor s equal a new distance sensor. I need to put an ID, some value, and then a range. مثلا, this range must be kind of random value. Let me put range here. And then maximum range is 0.5 and 0.2. So let me find the range, which is a double value. صح ولا? It's a double value, and it's math dot random. So I can multiply by the max because math.random will give between 0 and 1. Okay. And it must be greater than, yeah.
So 0.2 plus.
We can do while loop. مثلا, I can do while range is smaller than 0 or sensor grid dot mean أنا قلنا 5 هنا. okay is greater 0.2. we can do range equal, if it is smaller, while the range is smaller, I'm going to find another range. Okay, until it becomes greater than, we can make also and range greater than 5.0. So if it is greater than 5.0 or smaller than 0.2, it's not correct range. I'm going to make another random value. Okay, so here the only thing missing is the ID. Okay, the ID is a string, صح ولا? Okay, and usually the ID must be between 1 and 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, because 3 by 3. I'm going to create a counter here counter equal to 1. Okay, and I will increment the counter every time. So it will be 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, until the last value will be 9. And then I will have to add here counter. But of course, counter is int and ID is string. I can just add a small string here, empty string, so just to convert the counter to a string. And that's it. I can put ID here. And then we have everything in place. Okay, if you want, we can also print the value of S to check. And the last thing we need to print is the maximum range. Max range or max is equal. How to find the range now? How to find the range? Dot max. Okay, if I execute now. So we have wrong range. Okay. Look now, I have a wrong range. Although I made sure that the value should be between 0 and 5. There is something wrong that we did here. The problem, we are setting the range of the constructor before putting the range, the max and the mean range. But at this time, this value max range and mean range is equal 0, default values. By the end, every range is going to be wrong. Okay, that's why we make set range بعد لأنه الآن الvalidation of range مرتبطة بالvalidation of بالmax and mean value. Okay, so if I do now like this, it says wrong range again. Okay, we have to debug. Let me check what is the range now. I will go step by step. Okay, the range is correct. So we should have something wrong in the data validation. Distance sensor. If the range is greater than mean range, okay, let me print here range S out max range and also mean range, because it's not showing that. It's correct. This is the max range.
It's swapped. It's correct. Make the maximum mean swapped.
الرينج الآن it is greater than mean range صح ولا لا؟ and smaller than max range.
You didn't put the else.
Else. Still.
The range is less than 0.2.
I just remove the throws. It's working fine. Else. I don't know why it's executing this one. So this is the first one, ID 1. 2.4, 0.8. It's working fine, but strange. This is strange. I don't know why it's making the assignment and still executing.
Maybe you have to close the parentheses.
No need. throws, else throw, yeah, throw here. Okay. Yes. Okay, with parentheses now it works. Okay, I don't need to have this now. Okay, is it clear? I can remove the range from here. Okay, so these are the 9 sensors from 1 to 9. And this is the range, the maximum range, the minimum range, and this is the maximum value. It's 4.93, this one.
So try putting the set range above the maximum. Again, will it change anything to make sure?
Sorry?
You change the place of set range
The distance sensor.
after maximum.
Where?
Constructive.
This is sensor.
Yes.
This one?
Yeah, try putting set range again above them. Will it change anything?
Yeah, it will change, of course. It will not work.
Oh, okay.
And I explained why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it must be in this way. Okay, that's all.
What was the problem? What was the problem?
The problem was in the validation. Okay. When you put here, when you put max and mean after the range, okay. So at this point, when it executes set range, the max range and mean range are equal to 0. So any value will be wrong. But now this is what we have to do. We first set the mean and max range, and then we set the range.
Is there anything regarding the exception or validation?
The range validation here. Okay.